This House will come back to order. Come back to order. The clerk will read the caption to a group of privileged, let's ring the bell. Let's ring the bell so they'll know we're back here. Over anxious. House will come back to order. The clerk will read the caption to a group of privileged resolutions. The clerk will read.
These first two resolutions are invitation resolutions. They're being read for the first time today to be referred to the Committee on Rules. Resolution by Representative Strickland, 111th. Congratulating Peyton Johnson winning the first state championship at Strong Rock Christian School, inviting him to be recognized by the House of Representatives. Resolution by Representative Hawkins, 27th. Congratulating White County High School WTVN Warrior TV broadcast team, first place win 2013 Student Television National Convention, inviting Executive Director Charles DeWalt, students of WTVN, to be recognized by the House of Representatives. Those resolutions are invitation resolutions being read for the first time today to be referred to the Committee on Rules. Following resolutions are privileged resolutions being read for the first time today for adoption. Thank you, sweetie. Appreciate it. A resolution by Representative Stovall, the 24th, commending Clayton State University's women's basketball team on winning the NCAA Division II Southeast Regional Championship. Resolution by Representative Drenner of the 85th, congratulating Atlanta Freedom Band's 20th anniversary, recognizing the LGBT's International Conference. Resolution by Representative Anderson, 92nd, recognizing and commending Stronghold Christian Church East, occasion of its 5th anniversary. Resolution by Representative Douglas, 78th, honoring the 50th anniversary. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech, recognizing the opening of the National Center for Civil and Human Rights. Resolution by Representative Cooper, the 43rd, recognizing Southern Polytechnic State University, recognizing October 14th, 2013 as Poly Day at the Capitol. A resolution by Representative Anderson, 92nd, congratulating Miller Grove High School varsity boys basketball team winning 5th consecutive state championship. A resolution by Representative Mayo of the 84th, congratulating Ms. Ashley Victoria Stroud, receiving the State of Georgia Northeast Georgia Family Caregiver of the Year Award. A resolution by Representative Mayo, 84th, recognizing commending the Georgia Minority Supplier Development Council. Resolution by Representative Mitchell, 88th, congratulating John H. Evans on his 80th birthday. Resolution by Representative Mitchell, the 88th, on the life and work of Carolyn Miller. Resolution by Representative Neal, II, recognizing commending Bob Plemons, occasion of his retirement. Resolution by Representative Coleman, 97th, congratulating Laureen Ekman, 2013 Georgia Teacher of the Year. Resolution by Representative Powell, 32nd, honoring the memory of Mr. Richard Pettis. Resolution by Representative Brooks, the 55th, honoring the life and memory of Mr. Johnny Paul Jones, Sr. Resolution by Representative Hill, 22nd, commending and recognizing Christina Hurd, earning the Girl Scouts of America Gold Award. Resolution by Representative Dempsey, the 13th, recognizing and commending Boys and Girls Club of Georgia, 2013 Military Youth of the Year, Stephanie Raymer. Resolution by Representative Dempsey, the 13th, recognizing and commending Boys and Girls Clubs Georgia, Boys and Girls Club Georgia's 2013 Youth of the Year, Tyler Reagan. Resolution by Representative Maxwell, 17th, recognizing and commending the Beulah Masonic Lodge. Resolution by Representative Chiokas, 138th, Recognize commending Mr. Richard Whaley III, his appointment as a member director to serve on the board, Federal Home Loan Bank of Atlanta. Resolution by Representative Thomas 56, recognize commending the Guayan Mata Ensemble. Resolution by Representative Setzler 35th, recognize commending Michael Stewart Roberts. Resolution by Representative Buckner 137th, recognizing commending Joanne Cavis, occasion of her retirement. Resolution by Representative Coleman 97th, recognize commending Mrs. Janet Hollis, occasion of her retirement. Resolution by Representative Smith 70th, recognize commending Dr. Baru Simfa. Resolution by Representative Howard 124th, recognize commending Mr. Thomas R. Schneider, outstanding public service. Resolution by Representative Brockway 102nd, commending Mr. Doug McCoy for his 25 years of volunteer service, Kids Chance of Georgia. Resolution by Representative Pack 108th, recognize commending Camp Creek Elementary School Principal Catherine Jones, occasion of her retirement. Resolution by Representative Pack 108th, congratulating Parkview High School boys baseball team, outstanding 2012 season. A resolution by Representative Jones 53rd on life and memory of Dr. Asa Yancey Sr. Resolution by Representative Powell 32nd, recognize commending Captain James Paul Cosper. Resolution by Representative Williams 87th, honoring Brother Derek Thornton, outstanding service, Christian chapter number 67, worthy patron. Resolution by Representative Pack 108th, congratulating Parkview High School boys swimming and diving team, outstanding 2010, 2011, 2012 season. The resolution by Representative Rogers 29, congratulating Mr. Rhett York, recipient of the Kiwanis Club John Jacobs Jr. Service Award. Resolution by Representative Houston 170, celebrating the birth of Harrison Reddick Hopkins. Resolution by Representative Chiokas 138th, recognizing commending Judge Wayne Jernigan Sr., devoting 40 years to his light public service, City of Hampton. Resolution by Representative Chokas 138th, congratulate Mr. Jake Miller, occasion of his 80th birthday. Resolution by Representative Welch 110, recognizing commending Eagles Landing High School boys basketball team 2013 GHSA Class 4A State Championship. Resolution by Representative Rice 95th, recognizing commending Monty Carla Nichols, occasion of their retirement from the Lord's service at Peachtree Corners Baptist Church. Resolution by Representative Jones 53rd, recognizing commending Mrs. Yvette Manns, Margaret Fain Elementary School 2012-2013 Teacher of the Year. Resolution by Representative Jones 53rd, commending Ms. Deborah Jones, Boyd Elementary School's 2012-2013 Teacher of the Year. Resolution by Representative Houston 170th, recognizes commending Walter Jones. Resolution by Representative Buckner 137th, on the life and memory Dr. Floyd Cannon Jarrell Jr. Resolution by Representative Hitchens 161st, recognizes commending the Effingham YMCA Christian Leadership Academy of the Effingham YMCA. And the resolution by Representative Hitchens, 161st, recognizes commending Captain Kirk B. McGlamory, occasion of his retirement, through the privileged resolutions.
Is there objection to the adoption of the privilege resolutions? What purpose does Representative Ramsey rise?
I object to the adoption of LC 101-0403 and move that the House postpone this resolution to the next legislative day, Mr. Speaker.
Is there objection? Chair hears none, and that one will be postponed to the next legislative day. Is there objection to the adoption of the remainder of the privilege resolutions? Chair hears none, and the resolutions are adopted. What purpose does the Majority Caucus Whip Representative Lindsay rise?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would move for immediate transmittal of the entire local calendar from this morning so that they can be properly taken up by the Senate in the short amount of time we have left, which would be HB 380, HB 528, HB 561, HB 575, HB 589, HB 590, HB 591, HB 593, HB 594, HB 596, HB 598, HB 603, and HB 604.
On the motion of the gentleman that the...
Mr. Speaker, I omitted one. I inadvertently would also be HB 353. My apologies.
On the motion of the gentleman that the entire local calendar that was approved by the requisite constitutional majority earlier today be immediately transmitted to the state Senate. Is there objection? Chair hears none, and it is so ordered. Okay, we're going back to the rules calendar. Going back to the rules calendar. The clerk will read the caption to Senate Bill 11. Senate Bill 11.
Senate Bill 11 by Senator Carter of the 1st. Bill will be entitled 12, relating to general provisions relative to water resources, so as reestablish the Georgia Geospatial Advisory Council. This bill had been before the House Committee on Natural Resources and Environment. The committee recommends the bill do pass by way of a committee substitute. Bill is being read today for its third time.
Chair recognizes Chairman Knight to present the bill. Chairman Knight.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, I bring for your consideration today Senate Bill 11. Let me go back a little bit for some of the folks who weren't here. This went back to HB 169 that created the original Geospatial Advisory Council for the purpose of looking at Georgia's geospatial capabilities at the county, regional, and state levels. And so what this bill is doing is basically extending its life till 2016. And what the Geospatial Advisory Council does is trying to understand and coordinate these activities relating to this place and space across Georgia. In other words, focusing on these capabilities, the strategic planning, the technologies, the data, the standards for interoperability, processes, economies of scale, and best practices. I want to note, and there's been some concerns out here, this is a voluntary commission where these agencies voluntarily act. So it's not creating something. We're not spending any money. They act if they're appointed by their agencies to come in and simply come in and help advise here. What this is doing is making sure that we're speaking a common language from a common base regarding these programs and the efficiency of this technology. And I want to go back to the reason 169 and why this originally came into place. If y'all remember the federal flood maps, and at the time back in 2010, a lot of places around Georgia didn't have the technology or the ability to go out and tell somebody whether it was in a floodplain or not in a floodplain. Okay, some of our local governments can't even contact these owners because the technology is not here, and this is what geospatial data is about. And you know, a great example of why this is very important, and we continue to look at it and let these folks progress and making sure that the state's here, is that a great example is in Towns County. This data high resolution data was able to determine that 300 homes were no longer in the floodplain. And it saved those 300 homes over $1 million from being in, having the insurance. But I tell you what's worse is probably the people who are no longer in a floodplain because they change and they don't know it, or the people who have now become into a floodplain and they don't know it. So guys, this is voluntary. It keeps moving this technology so we can coordinate it. That's all this bill does. And I would respectfully request your approval for Senate Bill 11. Thank you. And I'll answer any questions, Mr. Speaker.
You have no questions.
Thank you, and I'll ask your favorable consideration.
Gentleman has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of Senate Bill 11 will vote yes. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the passage of Senate Bill 11, the ayes are 142, the nays are 18. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to Senate Bill 179. Senate Bill 179.
Senate Bill 179 by Senator Hill of the 6th, bill being entitled 13 relating to contracts for public works, Title 36 relating to public works bidding, so provide that if a sealed competitive proposal is requested and a price or project cost is not a selection or evaluation factor, no bid bond shall be required. Bill has been for the House Committee on Judiciary. Committee recommends this bill passed by committee substitute. Bill is being read today for its third time. Hey, Steve.
Chair recognizes the Majority Caucus Whip, Representative Lindsay, to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. After the number of bills that we heard this morning from folks presenting bills for the first time, let me tell you that this is not my first time, nor, quite frankly, this is the first time that you've seen a large part of this bill. Senate Bill 179 does two things, and let me sort of dispose of the first thing first, which is we have attached HB 362, which this House has already previously voted out of this body, to this bill in its entirety. And for those of you who do not recall the extensive debate we had on that bill, what this simply does is it strengthens Georgia's longstanding principle in favor of us being a right-to-work state. What it simply does is mandate that neither the state of Georgia nor any other government in this state can, in a bidding process for any kind of public contract, provide preferential treatment to any kind of labor union or union labor. Certainly, union labor and businesses that operate with union labor can bid, but they're going to have to bid on simply a level playing field. That's all that bill does. If you can recall the debate that we had over this bill about 3 weeks ago. In regards to the remainder of the bill that came over from the Senate from my good friend and brand new senator, Senator Hill, what it deals with is also deals with bidding on public contracts. What it does do essentially is this: it specifies when bid bonds are required. Specifically, bid bonds are things that are required as part of bids where a cost or price will be a selection evaluation factor. In other words, when a bid is based purely on the qualifications of the bidder and not on the price being offered by the bidder, a bid bond will not be required under Georgia law. More importantly in the bill is the fact that technically underneath Georgia law right now, we are not able to provide either an incentive in a construction contract for someone who finishes a job early or a penalty for someone who finishes the job late. And as many of you know, particularly those of you who've ever built a house, you understand the importance of trying to get your construction company to bring the work in on time. And all this bill does is it allows for the state of Georgia to put into contracts with construction industry both incentives, if they wish to do so, for bringing a contract in early or penalties for bringing a job in late. That's essentially what the bill does, Mr. Speaker. I'll be happy to take any questions.
You have questions, do you yield?
Yes, sir.
Chair recognizes Representative Oliver to your left for a question.
Does the gentleman yield?
Yes.
You were probably with us yesterday when we honored the 900 Georgia Power workers that volunteered their time to go to the Northeast on hurricane relief work. Is that
yes,
correct?
I was.
And you would agree with me, wouldn't you, sir, that Georgia Power is an extremely well-managed and efficient and good business for Georgia?
Yes, I would.
And you would agree, sir, that they use labor agreements extensively for the benefit of their stockholders, for the benefit of us customers. Would you agree with that, sir?
I would say that that's a private enterprise entitled to do whatever they wish to do in terms of how they contract. The question is here, what type of, whether or not we are going to put in place in terms of our contracts, the principle that we have enacted in the state regarding right to work. And we have put into place a right to work principle, and we ought to put our money where our mouth is.
Final question, sir.
Yes.
Would you agree or disagree that it's possible that some of our counties, some of our cities, some of our governmental entities are just as capable of conducting business in a competent way as Georgia Power?
What I would agree with is this, is that the money that's at issue is not the local government's money. It's not the local cities, it's not the local school board, it's not the local county's money. It's the taxpayers' money. And as taxpayer money, they are entitled to make sure that their money is being spent in conformance with Georgia's long-term principles regarding right to work. Be happy to take another question. Yes, sir.
You yield for another question?
Yes, sir.
Chair recognizes Representative Bruce to your right for a question.
Will the gentleman yield?
Yes.
You continually use the word right to work, but is this really not the right to fire?
No, sir, it's right to work. It entitles a worker to decide whether or not they wish to belong to a union. And it does not, underneath Georgia law, you're not entitled, no union or is entitled to demand that you belong to that union.
Well, the
as part of employment.
We further yield.
Yes, sir.
There's a certain amount of guarantee that comes with the skill level of people who are in the union. The unions pretty much make sure folks are properly trained to do the work that they're being contracted out to do. So if a entity wants to make sure that they have the quality of skill that comes with association with the labor unions, would you not be denying them an opportunity to get the best possible labor
No, sir, I do not, because a construction company, for instance, that wishes to use union labor and bid on a contract may do so. All this bill does is not allow union contractors to have a leg up over non-union contractors. It simply requires a level playing field. Mr. Speaker, we have debated this issue extensively on the floor of the House. And we already, I believe, put in well over an hour one time before. The bill nevertheless passed overwhelmingly, and the arguments that I'm hearing today are simply those rehash of those before. If you believe that Georgia should continue to be a right-to-work state, if you believe, as I do, that Georgia has prospered over the last over a half century as a result of our right-to-work status, if you believe that other states that used to not be right-to-work are finally seeing the light and are accepting the benefits from a right-to-work status, as shown by what has taken place in Michigan and Indiana, and you wish for us to continue to have that leg up over some of the states that we're competing with, I ask that you vote favorably for this bill. Mr. Speaker, I yield the will.
Gentlemen, as you yielded the well, we have other members who wish to be heard on this issue. Chair recognizes Representative Holcomb to speak to the bill. The chair, while he's making his way down, the Rules Committee had limited debate on this issue to 1 hour, the time to be allocated in the discretion of the chair. And now that Representative Lindsay has confined his remarks to less than 30 minutes, I'm going to give 30 minutes to those who have other views, so that I think there's a couple of people who wish to speak. Representative Holcomb, if you and the other representative can sort of allocate that between yourselves as you like, okay?
Absolutely,
Gentlemen may proceed.
Thank you, sir. I agree with the Majority Whip when he says that it's about the taxpayer money, and my concern is to make sure that we spend it the most economically strong way possible to promote Georgia jobs and Georgia development. I think all of us share an interest in that. And with respect to this bill, I don't have any objections to what was contained in what was passed from the Senate in sections 3 and 4 and 2. But what I do object to are the inclusion of the provisions that were from House Bill 362, and specifically with respect to the project labor agreements. And there are some important points which were elicited a little bit from the questions, but I want to expand upon a bit more. And one is this: the project labor agreements are a perfectly appropriate tool by which decisions can be made in terms of funding and contracting for projects. And they have a number of strengths, and because of that, they're commonly used in the private sector. So the reason why I oppose this bill is I think that we should give the flexibility to the state agencies and to all of our government entities to make the best decisions in terms of how they want to spend the taxpayer money. With respect to PLAs, there has been a lot of research that's been performed on them, and I want to share with you some that was done by Cornell University. And what it found is that PLAs maximize project stability, efficiency, and productivity, and minimize the risks and inconvenience to the public that often accompany public works projects. These are important considerations, and that's why PLAs have long been used in the private and federal sectors, and more recently and commonly by state, county, and municipal agencies. Again, PLAs in the public sector are perfectly appropriate. In its landmark 1993 Boston Harbor decision, Building and Construction Trades Council of the Metro District versus Associated Builders and Contractors of Massachusetts and Rhode Island, the U.S. Supreme Court recognized the value of PLAs in serving the public interest and opened the door for their use by state, county, and municipal agencies. Project labor agreements make sense for public works projects because they promote a planned approach to construction projects, allow contractors to more accurately predict labor costs and schedule production timetables, reduce the risks of shoddy work and costly disruptions, and encourage greater efficiency and productivity. Those are important goals, greater efficiency and productivity. A PLE standardizes otherwise incompatible work schedules, apprentice journey level ratios, hours, payment arrangements, and other terms and conditions, providing greater cost efficiencies. Again, that's a fine goal, greater cost efficiencies. Some PLAs also include cost-saving procedures for workers' compensation issues. PLAs provide job stability and prevent costly delays by providing a uniform contract expiration date so that the project is not affected by the expiration of any agreements, guaranteeing no strikes and no lockouts so they have a dedicated workforce to perform the project work, providing alternative dispute resolution procedures for a range of issues, and assuring that contractors get immediate access to a pool of well-trained and highly skilled workers. That's really important. You always hear about the lack of highly skilled workers, and these organizations have the capacity to provide that. So I don't understand why we want to limit that and take that away as an option from our local government agencies. It should be a case-by-case determination of whether a PLA is appropriate for that project, and we should leave that flexibility with those who have to make those decisions. Let's not make a poor economic decision for Georgia by passing Senate Bill 179. We can do better, and the existing law that we have is perfectly appropriate, and it creates a fair playing field that gives all of our agencies and lower governments the ability to make the best decisions to best spend the taxpayer money. Finally, I want to share with you a note that I received from a constituent, and she spelled it out pretty well on why we should oppose this bill. She writes, "This bill is the wrong path for Georgia. It would end requirements that local skilled workers get the jobs created by local tax investments instead of out-of-state unskilled contractors. It would also deny state and local agencies the ability to utilize a market-based tool to ensure on-time, on-budget results for their construction projects, taking away the options for local governments to use a proven tool that creates good jobs for Georgians is the last thing we need right now when our state's unemployment rate is higher than the national average." And I think everybody's aware that Georgia's unemployment rate has ticked higher than the national average for the last 5 years. So the last thing that we want to do is stop economic growth, stop economic activity. We want to promote it. Passing this bill is the wrong direction. I encourage you to vote against it. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I yield the well.
Gentleman had questions, but he has yielded the well. The chair recognizes the chairman of the Minority Caucus, Representative Flood, to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and ladies and gentlemen, I'll try to be brief. But I want to go back to a couple of things that my good friend from Davidson mentioned at the outset of his comments. And one of the first things he said was this is simple, a very simple matter, and frankly, it is not. This is, I think, he's trying to oversimplify the extent of what this bill does. Georgia clearly is a right-to-work state. I don't think that's going to change. We've had that conversation already, and there's no debate about that, and I don't think there's much of a conversation that would dispute that. This bill, however, does more than just provide incentives or penalties for bid contracts. And if you took Mr. Lindsay's premise that because it's taxpayer money that's being involved, then the state would essentially have the provision to oversee any and every issue that comes up with any state and or local government because they're either taxpayers or they're voters. And if you were to continue his logic of because they're taxpayers then the state has a right to intervene, then everything that taxpayers do would then be the purview of the state. And what would be the point then of local government? There was a test a few years ago as to whether or not a bill had merit, and there were 3 provisions, if you guys remember. One of them was, does it reduce the size of government? The second one was, does it save money? And the third was, does it promote family values? Frankly, I think we ought to go back to some of those tests and would make passing bills a lot more appropriate. I don't know that this bill does any of those things or even approaches them. But let me cover something that perhaps might have been glossed over, and that is, what exactly is a project labor agreement? A PLA is a comprehensive contract between a construction client and a consortium of unions. They've been used in the construction industry for over 60 years. They started in the 1930s, actually, and are usually used to promote higher standards of quality and stability for large construction projects. Community workforce agreements are essentially project labor agreements that have a social investment or targeted hiring provision to create employment and career paths for opportunities or opportunities for individuals from low-income communities. Some of the key elements of those agreements include requirements or goals for hiring local residents, hiring and workforce development for economically disadvantaged and at-risk individuals, hiring and workforce development of women and members of minority groups, including African Americans, Latinos, Asians, Native Americans, and others, hiring of veterans, apprenticeship utilization, utilization of minority and women-owned local small businesses, involvement of community-based organizations in the recruitment and monitoring efforts, and development of an implementation and monitoring process plan. PLAs are not perfect, but they are especially useful in large and complex projects, like, for instance, a $1 billion stadium that might be built somewhere near this Capitol sometime in the near future. They've been used since the 1930s. They were used to construct the Grand Coulee Dam, the Hoover Dam, Cape Canaveral, Disney World, the Trans-Alaska Pipeline. And the example that I just mentioned, the Atlanta City Council passed a bill just the other day that essentially approves the memorandum of understanding with the Georgia World Congress Center and Invest Atlanta to go forward with the construction of a retractable dome stadium somewhere very close to the existing Georgia Dome. And one of the provisions of that agreement was additionally pursuant to the tri-party MOU, STADCO shall cause the Arthur M. Blank Foundation to contribute $15 million to a fund to be used for community development initiatives in the neighborhoods immediately impacted by the stadium project site, and Invest Atlanta is expected to provide certain funds up to $15 million from tax increment in the redevelopment area in which the new stadium project is located and for the same purpose. Essentially, that is a community works agreement that is designed to engage and to include the nearby communities in the benefit and the construction of a new stadium. It would seem to me like a project labor agreement and a community workforce agreement that has been struck in the case of the Dome makes good sense. It allows the nearby community members to have a stake and an involvement in the construction of the project and to be a partner in the ongoing utilization of that facility. Senate bill, this bill would essentially obviate the opportunity for the stadium deal to move forward, and I see absolutely no value in it. So I would submit to you that this bill is not about whether or not Georgia is a right to work state. That's settled. There's no debate. There's no question, and we really don't need to go back there. This bill, however, is not just anti-labor. In the provisions that the project labor agreements provide, particularly with the community workforce agreements as a tandem, this is not just an anti-labor bill, this is an anti-workers bill. And I urge you to vote against Senate Bill 179. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield the well.
Gentleman has yielded the well. No other speakers on the measure. We have is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. The final word will come from the chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, Chairman Willard, who is recognized for the chairman's report.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to yield my time to Representative Mark Hamilton. Thank you.
The chair has that right. He has yielded his time to the chairman of the Industry and Labor Committee, Chairman Hamilton. 20 minutes.
Thank you, Speaker. It won't take but a couple of minutes. I just want to cover 2 points. One was we've heard this, we've been there, done that, been highly debated. I just want to refresh your memory. This bill came through the Industry and Labor. We had 3 different hearings on it and votes, and I also want to say that with the final changes that we made in the provision, we had a bipartisan support, and the final vote out of committee was unanimous to bring that bill forward to rules. The other thing I want to comment on is that Representative Holcomb made some very interesting points, and I just want to put it in a different perspective. If you use the logic that he used, some of you may not know this, but I happen to have a staffing company, and I would tell you in my staffing company, we provide highly skilled, highly trained workers, which is what's professing that only unions do. And what I would say is that because I provide highly trained, highly skilled workers, how would it be if I went then and went to a public project and asked for a specific set aside to my company so that my company got X percentage of the business simply because I provided highly skilled, highly trained workers? I can dare say that there would be much opposition to someone giving me that business simply because of that. And I think that we're trying to compare apples to apples here. Let's do it the right way. And Mr. Speaker, I will dedicate the rest of my time to the author of the bill. Thank you very much.
Chairman Hamilton yields to the Majority Caucus Whip, Representative Lindsay, for the final portion of the chairman's time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It'll take a very short amount of time. Sometimes when I listen to various folks opposing a bill, I have to ask myself whether or not they've actually read the bill. And I hate to say it, but I must do that again now. Let's sort of stick to exactly what the bill does. And if you could look at the bill, and you could look at both lines 51 through 54, which deal with the state as a contractor, and also at lines 102 through 105, which deals with local governments. All the bill does is it prohibits either the state or the local government from requiring a bidder to have one of these agreements with one or more labor organizations on the same or related construction projects. It doesn't have anything to do with any of these other issues, social issues, that folks want to consider in regards to construction projects such as the one over down the street to build a new stadium. All it does say is that it doesn't say that you can't have a PLA. It simply says that you can't require a PLA. Nor, if I might also add, does the bill bar the local contractor from voluntarily entering into a PLA if the contractor feels that's the best way to build the project after they obtain the contract, as can be shown in lines 110 through 112, as well as lines 59 through 61. It doesn't ban PLAs. It doesn't ban any of the other ways in which folks do business if the construction company believes that that's the best way for it to be able to complete the project that it has bid upon. All of this bill does is it simply does not allow either the state or the local government to mandate the use of labor, of union labor. It allows for the use of union labor. It simply does not give union labor a leg up over any other kind of labor. All this bill does, plain and simply, is reinforce once again the longstanding principle in the state regarding right to work, and make sure that we will have a level playing field for all folks who come to either the state or local governments to bid on a project. With that, Mr. Speaker, I yield the well and ask for favorable consideration on Senate Bill 179.
The gentleman has yielded the well. Previous question has been ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. There is an amendment, the Lindsay Amendment, which is AM 281248. Is there objection to adopting the Lindsay Amendment? The chair hears none, and the amendment is adopted. Now, is there objection to adopting the committee substitute as amended? The chair hears none. The committee substitute as amended is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of Senate Bill 179 will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. What purpose does Representative Quick rise?
Mr. Speaker, in accordance with Rule 133, I ask to be excused from the vote.
Lady has that right, and the journal will so reflect. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines on the passage of Senate Bill 179. The ayes are 109, the nays are 53. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to Senate Resolution 267. Senate Resolution 267.
Senate Resolution 267 by Senator Liggett III, a resolution urging United States Army Corps of Engineers to close noise cut in the Satilla River system. This resolution has been for the House Committee on Natural Resources and Environment. Committee recommends the resolution do pass, and the resolution is being read today for the third time.
The chair recognizes Representative Spencer to present the resolution.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I rise today to tell you about Senate Resolution 267. This addresses an issue that began in the early 20th century when Half-Mile Channel was dug through Georgia's coastal marshlands for the purposes of moving timber to market via river barges. The channel, known as Noise Cut, remains today and puts a little bit of wreaks a little havoc on our marshlands there on the migrating fish, blue crab, and boating routes near the mouth of the Satilla River. The Army Corps of Engineers did a study in the 1980s that recommended a closing of this cut to address these issues. SR 276 urges the United States Army Corps of Engineers to move forward on implementing of this project to plug this cut within the Satilla River system. If you look at the diagram up there, you can see where the cut was made in the early part of the century. Nope, it doesn't want to move forward, Mr. Travis. There it goes. You can see that the close-up there. It's just easier to explain it with pictures. And in 1900, the cut, as you can see, is right there. That's what the normal flow of the estuary looks like. And this provides nutrients. It helps with migratory fish patterns. It provides, it changes the salinity. It keeps the salinity of the marshlands appropriate and balanced and normalized. And so today, let me see if there we go. So today, this is the cut that you see, and this is what has happened to the marshland. So a lot of you are familiar with the term sequester, and what sequester means is essentially a shunting of something. In the case of the human body, it's the shunting of blood. In the case of the marshland, it's the shunting of nutrient-rich water into the large river there. And so what we're asking is the Army Corps of Engineers look at this when dredging does start, possibly with the Savannah Harbor, maybe even with the Brunswick Harbor in the future, is that material can be used to plug up this cut. And if there are any questions, Mr. Speaker, I'll yield.
You have a question. Do you yield?
Yes, sir, I do.
Chair recognizes the chairman of the House Transportation Committee, Chairman Roberts, for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
I do.
Question for you, Representative Spencer. Last year we had a bill in here, it was a deadhead logging bill. There was a lot of concern about silt being in the river and all. What are we looking at from going in and now damming up? Or are we not going to create a lot of silt and all in the river? Or
well,
can you explain that to me?
That is the problem currently now, Mr. Chairman, is this this cut has actually contributed to over-siltation in the marshland that's affected by that curvature, that tortuous river route there that I've showed you. So what has happened is silt has built up and has built up into the Satilla River estuary, and this would actually help correct some of that problem. So this cut's no longer needed. We're not floating logs down there anymore. So we would like to help provide more nutrients to the migratory patterns of our fish, of our crabs and our shrimpers, and our commercial fishermen depend on healthy habitat, and this would do it. I'll yield for one more, Mr. Speaker, if there's any questions.
I think he was the only one that was confused, Representative.
Well, thank you very much.
You have no further questions.
I will yield the well. Thank you, and I please consider a yes vote.
Is there any, gentleman has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the adoption of the resolution? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this resolution now be adopted? All those in favor of the adoption of Senate Resolution 267 will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the adoption of Senate Resolution 267, the ayes are 159, the nays are 2. This resolution, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore adopted. Clerk will read the caption to Senate Bill 236. Senate Bill 236.
Senate Bill 236 by Senator Jones, 25th. The bill will be entitled 33, relating to insurance, which requires insurers issuing accident sickness policies in the state to indicate on the premium statement to consumers the amount of the premium increase, if any, attributable to the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act. Bill having been for the House Committee on Insurance. The committee recommends that this bill pass by way of a committee substitute. Bill is being read for the third time.
Chair recognizes Representative Atwood to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, this is a department bill. Also has the support of the National Federation of Independent Businesses, as well as many in the insurance industry. It's fairly simple. Many Georgians, especially younger individuals, could see their rates double as a result of the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act. This bill will help people receive their rate increases, understand why their rates are going up so suddenly. Insurers are already required by Georgia law to provide a notice of a premium increase 60 days prior to the effective date of the rate increase. SB 236 will require insurers to provide, along with those notices they're already required to do by law, an estimate of how much of the increase is attributable to the Federal Affordable Care Act. Insurance companies have already done their calculations. This bill will simply require them to disclose that information to the consumers. It also does one other thing. It essentially sends a notice if the rates do go up, if they're attributable to the Affordable Care Act, to the public, that these rate increases are not due to any legislation passed by the Georgia General Assembly, are encouraged by the governor, or the Department of Insurance. That's what it does, and Mr. Speaker, with that, I will yield for questions.
You yielded for questions?
I have, Mr. Speaker.
You have questions.
I yield.
Chair recognizes Representative Brockway to your right for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
I will.
Friendly question. Does this cost insurance companies any additional money by requiring that they do this, what's called for in this bill?
This will not create, and thank the gentleman for the question, this will not create a substantial cost to the industry. Some insurance companies have already been planning, they've gathered this information, they've already made projections of what the Affordable Care Act will cost them. They already send out notices ahead of any premium increases by law anyway, as a normal course of doing business. In other words, the bill will simply require insurers to put already available information on notices that are already required to be sent out.
Thank you, sir.
Chair recognizes the Minority Caucus Whip, Representative Hughley, for a question to your left.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
For my friend, I certainly will.
I was just curious how you would explain why we would have a mandate for transparency purposes that only lasts for 1 year.
Well, mainly because I want to be, or the senator that carried it now, or that proposed the legislation that I certainly support because I'm carrying it, we want to let folks know what's happening, why that is. If we continue to have that requirement down the road, we can certainly extend this with later legislation, but we don't want to be too broad in scope or focus. So we try to limit it as narrowly as we could and as cost efficiently as we can.
And back to your prior answer, there will be some additional costs. You're saying that's not substantial because we're creating a mandate on a business that they don't currently have. Is that not true?
They currently do have a mandate. They currently have a mandate to report, and let me tell you the reason. Every 60 days prior to any rate increase, they're mandated by Georgia law to report. And the reason being, they want to give consumers an opportunity to buy cheaper insurance. They'll give you a notice. It goes up. This is why you can go out and purchase cheaper insurance. That's a requirement for it. All it does is add some additional information. The insurance company's representative essentially don't want to be blamed. They don't want to be blamed. If this is due to the Affordable Care Act, they must specify it. We have actuaries in the Department of Insurance. They're going to make sure that this is done right. And that's essentially why we do what we do in this. So.
Well, I think what you're saying is, if I'm correct, that it's not a requirement for them to disclose increases, but it is additional requirement, wouldn't you agree, for them to disclose an increase based on the Affordable Care Act?
That's correct.
The other question I have is the fact that the insurance department is going to have to expend resources to ensure that companies do not overstate the amount of the premium increases that are attributable to the Affordable Care Act. Is that not true?
I would say that would be true. I think that Mr. Hudgens reported they already have actuaries on board. So I don't see this as a tremendous increase, substantial increase of any kind on the insurance department either. And the insurance department is the one that requested this legislation. So.
Thank you so much. Since we're talking about transparency, I just want us to be transparent in how we talk about this bill. Thank you.
Ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Do you yield for another question?
I will, Mr. Speaker. One more.
Chair recognizes Representative Buckner to your left for a question.
Does the gentleman yield?
I will.
Kind of in keeping with the question about, since this is in the interest of transparency, I'm just curious, if the price goes down, is there any requirement for the insurance companies to give notice that there was a decrease caused?
No, ma'am, there's not. The whole idea behind warranting, under current law, there's not. If they go down for any reason, because the whole reason for the increase and notifying them of the increase is so they can go out and buy cheaper insurance. So there is not a requirement for that.
With our property tax bills, we let them know whether they're going up or down, and I just was curious if it applied here as well.
No, ma'am.
Thank you.
With that, Mr. Speaker, I will yield the well and ask for your favorable consideration.
Gentleman has yielded the well. We have other members who have signed up to speak. Chair recognizes Representative Gardner to speak to the bill.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Another mandate, Georgia's newest mandate. For years, we've talked about the impact that adding mandates to health insurance has had on our health insurance premiums. Senate Bill 236 adds yet another mandate and additional work for the insurance agents, not to mention the actuaries at the insurance department. Apparently, they have extra time. I was not aware that there were enough actuaries to do this kind of evaluation. What this bill does is mandates health insurance companies to print specific language on each of our premium bill. Of course, this will only apply to individual policies and small business policies. Large employers who are covered under ERISA or are self-regulated won't have to bother putting this language on their insurance premiums because they do not come under the jurisdiction of the Georgia Insurance Commissioners. So most Georgians won't see this language that blames the Affordable Care Act for any increases in the health insurance premium. You know, there were other mandates introduced in this legislative session. There was one to mandate the offering of treatment for autism. That was Representative Harbin's bill. A good idea. What happened to that mandate? It went to a study committee. Representative Lindsay had a wonderful bill that I supported that provided hearing aids for children with hearing problems. What happened to that mandate? It went to a study committee. I don't know why this bill doesn't go to a study committee. There are many changes in our health insurance system this year and will be over the next several years. Why are we burdening insurance companies with additional language that they must print, mandated to print on their health insurance premium? Please join me in voting no on Senate Bill 236.
You have questions if you ladies yielded the well. Is there objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. There is a minority report. And that will be, I think, presented by Representative Murphy. Representative Quincy, he waives, so the minority report will not be given. The chairman of the committee has the last word. Okay, the chairman of the committee is absent today. He, for good reason. The chair recognizes the vice chair of the insurance committee, Vice Chairman Shaw, for the chairman's time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and stand in the absence of Chairman Smith, and I would yield the majority of the chairman's time to Representative Atwood.
The chair has that right, and Representative Atwood is recognized for the balance of the chairman's time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I won't delay. I know I'm the only thing standing between everyone and the door. Essentially, this is what it's going to do. We've had insurance industry reports tell us, for example, you're a 21-year-old male. With a $10,000 high deductible health plan, you could see your premium go from $854 to $2,298, 145% increase. If you're a 40-year-old male with a $10,000 high deductible health plan, you could see your premiums go from $1,494 to $3,286, 100% increase. If you're a 60-year-old male with a high deductible health plan, you could see that premium go from $4,106, ladies and gentlemen of the House, to $6,938, a 54% increase. Simply stated, if you think that the Affordable Care Act will not cause an increase in your insurance rates and insurance premiums, vote for this bill. If you really believe that, vote for this bill, because you know what? No one will have to report. They won't have to do it. But if you believe that the rates are going up and you want to hide that from the people of the state of Georgia, vote against it. With that, Mr. Speaker, I yield the well.
You have questions if the gentleman has yielded the well. Okay. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of Senate Bill 236 will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the passage of Senate Bill 236. The ayes are 113, the nays are 48. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Senate Bill 82 will be postponed to the next legislative day. Senate Bill 187 will be postponed to the next legislative day. All right, do we have what purpose does Representative Chokas rise?
Mr. Speaker, to make a motion.
State your motion.
I move that the rules be suspended temporarily so that a bill can be introduced and read for the first time and assigned to committee.
Clerk will read the caption.
Bill by Representative Chiokas, 138th, bill to be entitled Act enacting the State Court of Sumter County.
Representative Chokas has moved that the rules of this House be temporarily suspended to allow a bill to be read for the first time and assigned to committee. Is there objection? The chair hears none, and it is so ordered. Intergovernmental coordination. If you have an announcement, you need to be signed up with the messenger, and you need to do that now, or you won't be recognized. And while we have people signing up late, I don't think he's here today. but help me join in congratulating Representative Josh Clark and his wife Chelsea upon the birth yesterday morning of Ellie Ann Clark at 6:19 a.m., 8-pound, 4-ounce, 20-inch long young lady, and she is their 5th child. Congratulations to Representative Clark. What purpose does Chairman Neal rise?
To make a motion, Mr. Speaker.
State your motion.
I move that the rules be temporarily suspended for a bill to be read and assigned to committee.
Clerk will read the caption.
A resolution by Representative Neal, a second, a resolution creating the House Human Embryonic Research Study Committee.
On the motion of Chairman Neal that the rules of this House be temporarily suspended to allow a bill to be read for the first time and assigned to committee, is there objection? The chair hears none, and it is so ordered. Health and Human Services. We're on now to announcements. Chair recognizes Chairman Pruitt for an announcement. Just a minute, Mr. Chairman. You may want to hear these announcements, and if you don't, then you might want to leave early and let those who do want to hear them have some quiet and order. Gentlemen may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The State Planning and Community Affairs Committee will meet today at 3:45 in room 406 at the LOB. And that will be looking at Senate Bill 181. Thank you.
Chair recognizes the chairman of the Rules Committee, Chairman Meadows, for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There will be a Rules Committee meeting upon adjournment. Regular place. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Chairman of the Ways and Means Committee, Chairman Chanel, for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The full House Ways and Means Committee will meet today in room 606 in 15 minutes. 15 minutes, Ways and Means 606.
Chair recognizes the Chairman of the Transportation Committee, Chairman Roberts, for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The full House Transportation Committee will still meet in room 506 at 3:30 today, at 3:30 and 506. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes the Chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, Chairman Willard, for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The House Judiciary is meeting at 3:30. We have several bills controversial, so please everybody try to show up.
Chair recognizes the Chairman of the Governmental Affairs Committee, Chairman Carter, for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We have a meeting, full committee in the morning at 8 a.m. in 506.
Chair recognizes the Chairman of the Judiciary Non-Civil Committee, Chairman Golick, for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Judiciary Non-Civil will meet upon adjournment in room 415 CLOB. Thank you.
Chair recognizes the Chairman of the House Education Committee, Chairman Coleman, for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The full House Education Committee will meet in 10 minutes in room 515. Note the change, 515 in CLOB in 10 minutes.
Chair recognizes the Chairman of the Retirement Committee, Chairman Battles, for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The scheduled motor vehicle meeting that was scheduled today has been canceled, and we will schedule that for sometime next week. Thank you.
Chair recognizes the Chairman of the Banks and Banking Committee, Chairman Morris, for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I was going to announce that the Banks and Banking Committee would be meeting upon adjournment in room 341. But that's the Rules Committee meeting, so I'm assuming by the pecking order we will be meeting upon adjournment of the Rules Committee in the Rules Committee room 341. We will be taking up Senate Bill 139. We will have a vote, and there is an amendment to the bill, so I would appreciate all the members being there upon adjournment of the Rules Committee in 341. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes the chairman, the Intergovernmental Coordination, Chairman Sims, for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Upon adjournment, the Intergovernmental Coordination Committee will be meeting in 403. I only got 2 bills to take up. I need all of you. Thank you.
Chair recognizes the chair of the Budget and Fiscal Affairs Oversight Committee, Chairman Martin, for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The subcommittee, Utility Subcommittee of Energy, Utilities, and Telecom will not meet this afternoon as previously scheduled. Instead, we will meet in room 515 CLOB at 8 a.m. Friday the 22nd. That's tomorrow, 8 a.m. CLOB 515. There will be a vote on Senate Bill 242.
Chair recognizes Chairman of the Small Business Development Committee, Chairman Knight, for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We're going to have a Small Business Development Committee meeting at 4 o'clock or upon the completion of Chairman Pruitt's meeting. Also, Mr. Speaker, I want to report to you that the House once again retains the trophy for the Sportsman's Caucus skeet shoot-off. Chairman Roberts and Delvin Dovis came in first and second, so we retain our lead over the Senate. Thank you.
That appears to be all of the announcements. Page photographs will be made at the rostrum immediately upon adjournment. Chair recognizes the Majority Leader for a motion.
Mr. Speaker, I move this House now stand in recess until 5 p.m. today, at which time we shall adjourn until 9:30 a.m. Friday morning, March 22nd, 2013.
The Majority Leader has moved that this House be in recess until 5 o'clock p.m. today, at which time we would stand adjourned until 9:30 a.m. tomorrow, Friday, March 22. All those in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed will say no. The ayes have it. This House will be in recess until 5 o'clock p.m. and will be adjourned then until 9:30 a.m. tomorrow morning.